It looks like splintered wood left to rot in an abandoned house, but the frame opens where it shouldn't. Some who cross return, but they are not themselves. Their smiles stretch too long. Their voices carry someone else's breath. If you know them, you will know the difference. I was half asleep, phone slipping from my hand, when the TV ripped itself open. The sitcom laugh track stuttered, screen smeared gray, and a flat tone pushed through the room like a blade on bone. Then the voice. This is an emergency alert. Do not step through broken door frames. Repeat. Do not step through broken door frames. The screen showed nothing but the words, white letters trembling on black. No maps, no instructions. Just that single warning, droning until my teeth clenched. I laughed, too loud in the empty room. Door frames? Really? My voice sounded wrong, like the air swallowed it whole. The broadcast snapped off. Sitcom laughter returned, jarring in its cheer. On my phone, threads were already exploding, screenshots of TVs, shaky videos, people shouting into cameras. Doorframe challenge soon, one post read. Bro, it said this is not a test, so it's fake, another argued. Memes rolled in fast, photoshopped reapers swinging doorframes instead of sides, kids posing under intact archways pretending to vanish. I wanted to laugh with them, but my throat caught. The alert had been specific, broken doorframes, not intact ones. The phrasing lingered in my head like a splinter. From the hallway came a crack of wood. Sharp, deliberate. I froze, every hair stiffening. Old building, I told myself. Pipes, settling boards. But the silence afterward pressed harder than the sound. Dawn peeled thin through the blinds. Coffee hissed in the pot, acrid and burnt. I poured anyway, hands shaking faintly. At the office, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. No one was working. Phones glowed in every palm. Marcus leaned on my desk, smirking. Door frames? That's our national emergency? I'd walk through one right now if it shut this alert up. You'd disappear on live stream, I said, and everyone would cheer. Better than dying of boredom. He grinned, reckless as always. I didn't answer. His bravado scratched something raw in me, like he needed to mock it so the silence wouldn't swallow him. By afternoon, the first video surfaced. 3 men outside a charred apartment block, laughing drunk. The one holding the phone slurred. This is for the alert. He turned to a jagged doorway where fire had eaten most of the frame. His friend, hat backwards, mock saluted. This is not a test. He stepped forward. Half a stride in, his torso vanished, legs flickering like bad tape before collapsing too. The phone hit cement, screen sideways. For half a second, the camera caught something else, a shadow sliding the opposite way through the frame, independent of him. Then static. I replayed it again and again. My stomach knotted, but my thumb wouldn't stop scrolling back. Marcus messaged, obvious editing. No one replied. That night, my apartment seemed to hum. Not noise I could point to, just a vibration in the plaster, in the bones of the floor. I sat in the dark, TV flickering commercials, phone buzzing with new clips. Doorframes in alleys, collapsed houses, burned stairwells. Each upload carried the same caption, don't blink. One video showed a man with hollow eyes whispering into his camera. His lips cracked as if he'd been speaking for hours. Don't think ignoring them saves you, he said. They notice. They grow. The feed cut to static before he could finish. I shut my phone, heart rattling. The alert tone slammed back, louder this time. Not just TV, phone, laptop, even the speaker I'd unplugged months ago. A chorus of flat lines drilling into the apartment. Then the voice, colder than before. This is a message for you. Do not investigate door frames. My chest cinched tight. The glow from the devices painted the walls sickly white. For a second it felt like the room had no corners, just one endless space. Then silence. Commercials again. Phone cleared. Speaker dead. From the hallway came that crack of wood, closer now, splintering like something prying loose. I stood, every instinct screaming not to move, but my feet carried me anyway. The overhead light flickered once. I stopped at the corner. Pulse thundered in my throat. I leaned just enough to see down the hall. Nothing but dark. But the shadow at the far wall seemed thicker than it should, like it wasn't waiting for me to move. It was waiting for me to notice. I lay awake till dawn, ceiling blurred, unable to close my eyes. Every creak of the building twisted my nerves tighter. Even the city outside sounded wrong, sirens and horns muted, as if pulled farther from me. I opened my phone to text someone, anyone. My contacts list felt like a stranger's. I couldn't picture who would answer. Couldn't picture what I'd even say. I'd always told myself keeping distance kept me safe. that not needing anyone meant nothing could be taken away. Now I understood what silence really meant. Do not step through broken door frames, and don't look too long at the ones already looking back. The cafeteria smelled of scorched coffee and reheated fries. Phones glowed at every table, all replaying the same clip. The drunk kid grinning mid-step before vanishing, his shadow peeling off like smoke. "Freeze it," someone muttered behind me. "That's still him right there." "No," another voice cut in. "That's something else. Look how it moves." The video looped again. Chairs scraped, voices rose, but under it all sat a silence, heavy as a ceiling about to cave. Marcus dropped into the chair across from me, slamming down his phone. "Photoshop. Obvious." He shoved it at me, threads of people drawing red arrows over screenshots, claiming green screen. "You believe that?" I asked. He grinned, too wide. "I believe people believe what makes them feel safe. Door frames are the new Slender Man. 2 weeks, we're on to the next panic. Unless it's real." He tilted his head, studying me. "You're spooked." "I saw the shadow," I said quietly. "It wasn't him." His grin faltered a fraction before snapping back. "Fear makes money. That's all this is." He laughed too loud. I wanted to laugh with him, pretend it was just another meme. But the image of that lagging shadow stuck in my skull like a hook. On the train home, every doorway felt wrong. Rusted station frames, blackened beams and old tunnels. They all seemed to breathe when I passed. My reflection in the window looked stretched thin, like it didn't want to follow me. Back home, I reheated leftovers I barely tasted. I set the fork down, watched the lamp in the corner burn steady. It felt like a guard, thin light holding the dark at bay. My phone buzzed again. I told myself not to check. I checked. Shaky footage. Someone creeping into a condemned duplex, whispering, "Do you hear it?" The phone fell sideways. In the grainy blur, splintered wood framing and empty dark, from inside came tapping. Tap. Pause. Tap tap. I replayed it once, then shut the phone face down. My apartment popped a sharp creak in reply, as if answering. 2 nights later, the alert came again. No blaring tone. Just my phone glowing on the nightstand, words sliding across the screen. "This message is for you. Do not enter the doorframe in your hallway." Hallway. I sat up. The air tasted metallic, penny sharp. The hallway bulb flickered, shadows swollen against the walls. My pulse throbbed in my temples. There was no frame there, just drywall, stained carpet. But I felt it, an outline pushing, pressing to open. I shut the bedroom door, dragged the dresser against it. Still the silence throbbed, heavy as breath at the back of my neck. At work, the air was worse than silence. Screens on every desk replayed new disappearances. Explorers mid-step. Phones clattering. Shadows walking alone. "My cousin saw one," someone whispered. "In her basement. It wasn't there yesterday. They taped off our street," another muttered. "Said stay inside. But they won't say why. What happens if?" He cut off, eyes darting. Marcus didn't show up at all. That night I called him. Straight to voicemail. I left the TV on for company. Static glow washing the room. Then the alert tone hit, louder than before, scraping like a blade across my nerves. Every device lit at once. "This is not a test," the voice said. It paused. For the first time it changed. Lower, quieter. Almost curious. "You will see it soon." The words sank into me, like they weren't spoken aloud, but carved. I yanked cords, powered down everything. The silence left behind was worse. I tried sleeping on the couch. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the drunk kid frozen mid-laugh, his shadow still moving. The hum in the walls rose, vibrating the springs beneath me. I grabbed my phone again, scrolled until my eyes blurred. Found a thread before it vanished, account deleted. Rule 1, don't step through broken door frames. Rule 2, don't investigate them. Rule 3, don't listen when they knock. I stared at the words until my throat went dry. They weren't advice for strangers anymore. They were addressed to me. Dawn scraped pale through the blinds. The street outside looked normal. Cars, buses, a kid dragging his backpack. Then I saw it. Across the street, in the husk of the burned-out dry cleaner, a doorway jagged open in blackened brick. And at its edge, a shadow too tall, stretched thin, waiting with patience that didn't belong to anything human. The city changed fast. A week ago, the alert had been a meme. Now police tape sagged across porches, burned stairwells, collapsed lots. I passed one on the way to the store, a house rotted down to ribs of wood. 2 cops stood guard, not blocking the house, but the thing inside it. From the sidewalk, I caught the jagged outline of a doorframe gnawed out of brick. My chest tightened like it wanted to pull me toward it. I looked away fast. Inside the store, the air smelled of bleach and spoiled produce. People whispered as if the shelves themselves were listening. My brother's friend stepped through one. A man murmured. They heard him screaming for hours. Not from here. My cousin came back, another whispered. But her shadow didn't. The cashier's hands trembled as he scanned my groceries. He didn't meet my eyes. No one wanted to admit they believed, but no one was joking anymore. That night, I left the bags untouched on the floor. Sat in the dark, scrolling. Forums pulsed with survivor stories. Blurry selfies of people who looked almost human but not quite. Faces pale, movements blurred. I stepped through and came back. But my parents don't know me. They said I move wrong. They won't let me in. Another wrote, reflections lie. Don't trust the glass after you cross. I kept reading until my hands shook. Every word felt aimed straight at me. Close to midnight, 3 knocks rattled the wall. Not from the hallway, from inside the living room itself. Knock. Pause. Knock knock. The sound was deliberate, waiting for me to answer. I hear you, I whispered. It stopped. I sat rigid till morning, afraid even to blink. The next day, I forced myself outside. The apartment felt like a cage thickening around me. The street wasn't better. Half-empty sidewalks, buses crawling slow. By the laundromat, a crowd gathered, phones up. 2 boys faced each other, maybe 12. Go on, one dared, voice shaking. Just step through. You first, the other stammered. They weren't staring at the laundromat door. They were fixed on a jagged opening in the alley wall, splintered brick framing a dark that bent inward. Before I could shout, the first boy shoved. The smaller one stumbled, brushed the frame, and was gone. His sneakers clattered empty on the pavement. The crowd screamed, scattering. The air pulled in hard, sucking at my lungs, then collapsed into silence. I ran until my legs burned. At the office, no one pretended to work. Screens glowed with shaky footage of what I had just witnessed. Threads screamed in real time. He vanished, staged, they're harvesting us. From the next cubicle, a voice whispered, don't ignore them. Ignoring makes them grow. My palms pressed the desk hard, knuckles whitening. The wood felt alive under my hands, faintly humming. That evening I boiled pasta. Let it stick and clump, ate it anyway, chewing like cardboard. I needed the routine, even if it tasted like ash. When I set the pot in the sink, I saw the wall above it. The paint bulged outward in a long, uneven line, as if something behind the plaster wanted to press through. I touched it. The surface was warm. My breath rattled. I pulled my hand back like it had burned me. Later, I curled on the couch, lamp lit, scrolling. A new post floated to the top of the forum. Title, Rules We Know So Far. The list was short, written like a commandment. Don't step through broken door frames. Don't investigate them. Don't throw things, don't film, don't test. Don't listen when they call. The voices aren't yours. Don't trust your shadow. If it lags, you're already gone. My vision blurred, but I couldn't look away. These weren't rules for strangers. They were warnings for me, for my apartment, for the paint swelling over the sink. Close to dawn, voices leaked from the hallway. Not creaks, not neighbors. Voices. Soft, coaxing, familiar. They called my name the way my parents used to when I overslept. My throat ached. For a moment, I wanted to believe. To step closer, open the door, hear them say everything was fine. But the rules echoed in my head. The voices aren't yours. I pressed my palms over my ears. Whispered until my teeth hurt. Not them. Not them. The voices faded. Silence flooded back. But the memory of their tone clung, warm and gentle, promising I could stop being alone if I just listened. At sunrise, I stood at the window, eyes burning. The street looked ordinary. A jogger, a woman with her dog, delivery trucks rumbling by. But across the way, 2 more houses gaped open with broken frames inside them. On the lamppost nearest my window, a paper flyer fluttered in the wind. Words scrawled in thick black marker. Do not ignore them. They grow when you look away. The edges flapped. The message burned itself into me. Don't ignore. Don't ignore. I shut the blinds hard. The apartment walls groaned in answer. The forums read like confessions carved into a wall. Don't stare too long. They stare back. My doorframe followed me home. I left it outside. It was inside when I woke up. The usernames blurred, but the words lodged deep. Each post sounded like it had been written from my apartment. The office felt like a morgue. Half the desks empty, the rest occupied by husks of people staring at their screens. Someone muttered, "Whole blocks are gone." They taped them off, but frames just appear somewhere else. No one argued. No one laughed. The fluorescents buzzed like flies. I sat at my desk pretending to work, but every keystroke felt pointless. I wasn't part of the room anymore. They all looked like shadows waiting to leave. I walked out early, the streets hollow, footsteps echoing off glass towers. That night I stirred cold soup, spoon turning circles that went nowhere. I forced down a bite, then set the bowl aside. The silence pressed too close, so I played an old voicemail from my mother, just her reminding me to call. The sound cracked something open in me. I wanted to dial her right then, hear her voice live. But the memory of the whispers stopped me. What if the voice on the other end wasn't hers anymore? I left the phone on the counter. My hand shook like it belonged to someone else. The alert tone tore the air. Phone, TV, laptop, all screaming together. Then the voice. "This message is for you." My phone flickered, letters jagged as if the glass resisted them. "Do not approach the frame in your home." "There isn't one," I whispered. But the words rang hollow. Near midnight, scratching started in the hallway. Slow, patient, not random creaks, not rats. A deliberate carving sound would pulled apart fiber by fiber. I pressed my ear to the bedroom door. The vibration traveled through the wall into my skull. When I cracked the door, the hall stretched long and wrong. Paint along the baseboard had split into thin white lines, as if claws had been dragging themselves outward. I shut the door and shoved the dresser hard against it. My breath rasped, chest burning. I tried distracting myself with the glow of my phone. Another anonymous post blinked at the top of the forum. "They want you to listen. That's how they enter. The voices will sound like people you love. Don't answer. Every time you listen, the frame grows closer." I dropped the phone face down. My ears rang, but the silence wasn't empty. It throbbed with waiting. At dawn I dared to peek into the hallway. The wall was gone. A jagged frame had torn itself out of the plaster, edges splintered raw. Inside, darkness shimmered like heat. My knees buckled. The air pulled toward it, soft but steady like a tide. A shape stirred inside. Human, blurred, leaning forward. I slammed the door, shoved the dresser back. It rattled, pushed from the other side. I didn't leave the apartment all day. I sat curled on the couch, lamp burning, eyes fixed on the door. Hours bled out. My body sagged, but I couldn't close my eyes. Then I heard her. Not my parents this time. Her. The voice I hadn't let myself think about in years. She said my name the way she used to when I shut her out. Gentle, patient, almost laughing. Tears blurred my vision. My chest ached so badly I thought my ribs would snap. "Not you," I whispered. The voice answered anyway, warm as memory. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Every part of me wanted to believe. The apartment cracked loud enough to make me flinch. The dresser had shifted an inch from the door, just enough for the hallway light to slip through. And in that pale strip, my shadow stood, upright, tilting its head. It watched me without moving. I stumbled back until my spine hit the wall. The shadow didn't follow. Didn't need to. I must have collapsed at some point. I woke to gray light leaking through the blinds. The apartment was silent. Too silent. I pushed the dresser hard against the door again, scraping grooves into the floor. When I turned, my phone glowed faint on the couch. Another alert. No tone this time. Just text. "Do not trust what waits on the other side." I stared until my reflection in the black glass wavered. Thin. Hollow-eyed. Not quite me anymore. The dresser wasn't heavy enough anymore. All morning, I heard it shift against the bedroom door, dragged from the other side. I shoved it back until my arms burned, but each time I blinked it seemed to creep forward again. By noon, I gave up bracing it. Sat on the floor with my knees pulled tight, waiting. The sound stopped. Silence pressed like a hand over my mouth. That's when I noticed the crack. Thin as a blade, running down the opposite wall. White paint splitting, dust falling in soft threads. The frames weren't content with the hallway. They were blooming inside. I staggered into the living room. My phone pulsed with a new post. They grow indoors. Walls mean nothing. No username. No replies. Timestamp minutes ago. It felt written by someone watching me. I hurled the phone onto the couch. My pulse stuttered, chest tight. By evening, I dared to open the bedroom door. The dresser had been dragged halfway across the floor. Beyond it, the hallway yawned wider. The frame stretched from baseboard to ceiling now. Splinters flared like ribs. Inside churned a dark that moved as though alive. A voice drifted out, my own. Come closer. You're already halfway here. I crawled through my gut. I slammed the door, shoved the dresser back. But the words clung like breath on my neck. That night I drank water from the tap. Metallic, stale. My reflection in the faucet warped, jaw stretched wrong. I turned away before it moved. Outside, sirens rose and cut short. The city sounded thinner each night, as though voices were being erased. Near midnight, the alert tone screamed. This message is for residents of your block. I froze. Frames cannot be contained. Evacuate immediately. If you cannot leave. Static swallowed the voice. I tried the laptop. Same alert, same cutoff. My phone screen stayed black. The silence that followed pressed harder than the noise. I yanked open the blinds. The street below was mostly empty. Cars abandoned at odd angles. Windows glowing, but no faces. A flyer clung to the lamppost. They're not outside anymore. Don't open any door. The wind tore it free. It lifted, sucked upward like the sky itself inhaled. From the kitchen came a whisper. I crept barefoot, floor tacky under me. The cupboard stood ajar. Inside, darkness bent like a tunnel carved through wood. Her voice slid out, soft, familiar. I've been waiting. You don't have to be afraid. My stomach clenched. I slammed it shut, pressed my palm flat to the wood. It throbbed faintly, as though something pressed back. You're not real, I hissed. The cupboard rattled once, then stilled. I slept on the couch, lamp burning. My body jerked awake every few minutes, convinced I'd heard a knock or scrape. At dawn, the walls swelled. Paint bubbled, corners bulged. Frames strained to hatch in every room. I grabbed the only weapon I had, a kitchen knife. The handle slick with sweat, ridiculous against wood that grew like bone. On the forums, a new thread was pinned. Emergency protocol. Rule 1, do not enter the frames. Rule 2, do not let them spread. Destroy what you can. Rule 3, fire slows them, but only for a while. A reply read, no one destroys them in time. They want you to try. That's how they learn. I shut the laptop so hard it rattled the table. I knew they were right. I hadn't destroyed anything. I hadn't even tried. I told myself I was waiting for the right moment, but the truth was simpler. I was afraid of what acting would reveal about me. The stench of rot led me to the bathroom. The mirror had split, a thin crack running down its length. From it seeped dark moisture, dripping slow into the sink. My reflection smiled when I didn't. I staggered back, knife shaking in my hand. The reflection tilted its head. Lips moved though no sound came. Then it lifted its own knife. I slashed the glass. Shards rained across the tile, slicing my hand. My reflection fractured into dozens of jagged pieces, each one still staring. Even in pieces, the eyes moved. I stumbled back into the hallway, bleeding. The dresser had been dragged far aside. The frame devoured the hall. No longer a doorway, an entire wall stripped to ribs, pulsing blackness beyond. Whispers roared out in unison. My parents. Her. My own voice. All one. You belong here. The knife trembled. My body leaned forward, ready to step. I pressed the blade into my palm until blood slicked the handle. Pain anchored me. I staggered back, slammed the living room door. Pressed my weight against it, though I knew it was useless. The walls answered with a low groan. Frames spidered out like veins, jagged lines racing beneath the paint. Every surface pulsed faintly alive. I whispered to myself, don't ignore. Don't listen. Don't leave. The rules circled, useless mantras. The voices pressed closer, patient and hungry. And the apartment shrank around me, no safe corner left. The apartment no longer felt like mine. Every wall pulsed faintly, veins running beneath the paint. The ceiling sagged like it might split open and drop a frame on me. I sat on the couch, knife balanced on my knees. The voices hadn't spoken in hours. That silence was worse. They were waiting. In the afternoon, footsteps thudded above me, quick, frantic. A scream snapped short. I knew before I opened the blinds. The apartment upstairs had gone dark. In the window where no door had ever been, a broken frame leaned jagged and waiting. They're in every floor now, I whispered. The city outside was dimming one window at a time. A knock rattled my door so hard the knife slid from my lap. Hello? A man's voice. Human. Trembling. Please. They're behind me. Let me in. I pressed my ear to the door. Heard only his shallow breath. The rules burned in my mind. Don't open any door. I stayed silent. The knocking turned frantic. Then stopped. No footsteps leaving. Just gone. I slid down the wall, whispering, not yours. not yours. By evening, the air had thickened, damp and sour. Breathing felt like swallowing cloth. The cupboard rattled. The mirror hissed. My shadow lagged on the wall half a second behind me. I paced the living room, whispering the rules. Don't listen. Don't open. Don't trust. But the words frayed as I repeated them. The TV clicked on by itself. Static rolled. Through the hiss, a voice formed, my father's calm, steady. Son, you've been gone too long. Don't fight it anymore. We're right here. The static folded the words soft, soothing. I gripped the knife until my palm throbbed. Pressed the blade to my skin until it stung. Pain anchored me. Not you, I muttered. The TV went black. The shadows in the corners leaned closer. The floor trembled. Cracks raced across the boards, black seams opening like mouths. Whispers rose out of them, childhood laughter, her voice, my own laughter twisted back. I dropped to my knees, hands clamped over my ears. But the sound didn't stay in my ears. It resonated inside my ribs. When I lifted my head, the apartment had changed. Every doorway, bedroom, bathroom, closet was gone. Each had become a frame. Jagged ribs, black throats pulsing with movement. Shapes shifted behind them, pacing like caged animals. There's no way out, I whispered. The knife felt weightless in my hand. I backed into the corner, the only surface not consumed. My breaths came shallow. My phone lit again. No tone, just text. Final rule, you can't wait them out. Choose. The words cut deeper than any whisper. I stared at my reflection in the screen, hollow-eyed, thinner. Behind me, the nearest frame shimmered. A hand slid out, long fingers, pale, nails like glass. It didn't grab. It beckoned. The chorus swelled, not whispers now but voices overlapping. You belong here. Step through. Their longing struck deeper than fear. I closed my eyes and saw her. My parents. Smiling, patient. Tears burned down my face. I asked the dark, if I go, am I still me? Silence. No answer. The lamp flickered. My shadow wavered, then peeled off the wall. It stood upright, knife already in its hand. I staggered back, choking. The shadow moved a beat too late, tilting its head as though deciding. It turned away from me and stepped toward the frame. The moment it crossed, it screamed, raw animal. The frame swallowed it whole. Darkness rippled outward like water. I collapsed to my knees. My shadow was gone, but I was still here. The rules spun in my head, breaking apart. Don't enter. Don't trust. Don't wait. I whispered, then what's left? The frames pulsed an answer, patient, breathing in rhythm with my chest, waiting for me to choose. The apartment no longer felt like mine. Walls throbbed faintly, lines racing beneath the paint. The ceiling sagged. The air carried a dampness like lungs that weren't mine breathing around me. I pressed my back to the window, blinds drawn, whispering the final rule. You can't wait them out. Choose. But I didn't choose. I only gripped the knife and let the apartment rot around me. Near dusk, I cracked the blinds. The street had emptied. Cars stood open, doors swinging. Windows across the block gaped with frames where glass should have been. Apartment after apartment had gone black, hollow rectangles yawning like wounds. A woman staggered from the corner store, hands cut and bleeding. She screamed once sharp, then froze. Her shadow peeled away, rose upright, and stepped into the gutter. She collapsed wordless. The street swallowed her. I dropped the blinds, bow rising hot. The phone buzzed on the couch. Not the siren tone, just a hum. The screen glowed, neighborhood reports. Posts scrolled in quick bursts. Whole block gone in seconds. Frames in every doorway now. Police stopped answering. Pinned at the top. If you see someone you know outside, don't wave. Don't call. They're not yours anymore. I let the phone slip from my hand. Knocks came again. This time from the window. Soft at first, then sharper. I lifted the blinds. My parents stood in the street below, or something wearing them. Faces too pale, heads tilted up. My chest tightened. I almost pounded the glass. Then their shadows moved before they did. The shadows waved first. I fell back, shaking. By night, the apartment shook. Frames pulsed in every doorway, breath syncing with mine. I lit candles along the floor. The flames pushed the dark back, but couldn't stop the voices. Her voice floated out. You don't have to burn yourself out here. Just one step, and you'll be safe. The flames guttered low. I pressed the knife flat to my arm until pain sharpened me. Not safe, I whispered. The voices chuckled. Patient. At some point I passed out. When I woke, the candles were stubs, the room drowned in dark. From the bathroom came pounding, hollow porcelain. I pushed the door open. The tub was half full of water, black and rippling. A hand rose out, dripping, nails sharp as glass. It hooked the rim, pulling. I slammed the door before the rest could follow. The tub struck once more, then stilled. By dawn, I couldn't stand the air. I shoved the dresser aside and forced the front door open. The hallway stretched empty, silent. Every apartment door had become a frame. Black shimmer filled each threshold. I descended the stairs, knife slick in my hand. Outside, daylight slapped me. The block had been emptied. Not destroyed, hollowed. Houses leaned open, frames blooming in every entry. The street reeked of wet wood and mold. For the first time in days, no whispers followed. The silence stretched too wide. I walked the street like a ghost, stepping past shoes, bags, a stroller tipped on its side. At the corner, a car idled, driver's door open. On the passenger seat lay a flyer, ink thick and clean. Rule 6, if you run, the frames run faster. My legs weakened. I backed away, scanning the doorways. Every frame shimmered faintly, as if listening. Laughter carried down the street. I turned. At the far end, a boy stood on a stoop. The same boy I'd seen vanish days earlier. But his skin sagged loose, eyes too bright. He waved, smiling wide. Then he stepped back into the frame behind him. Gone. The doorway quivered once, satisfied. I stumbled into the middle of the street, knife raised though it felt useless. The silence pressed from every side. You're winning, I whispered. The frames seemed to pulse an answer. For the first time, I thought about fire. About burning the block down, leaving nothing. But the words returned. They want you to try. That's how they learn. I stood paralyzed, torn between striking and surrender. The knife burned cold in my hand. The sky darkened. Clouds swirled like smoke. And for the first time, the voices didn't rise from door frames. They rolled from the sky itself. Hundreds of tones, overlapping, whispering in unison. Choose. The sound shook the street, deeper than thunder. I clamped my hands to my ears, dropped to my knees, knife clattering. The voices sank into my bones. Choose. The words still echoed in my bones. Choose. I stumbled down the street, knife damp in my grip. Silence pressed from every doorway. At the intersection, I froze. All 4 streets shimmered with frames. Houses, shop fronts, even bus stop shelters. Every opening hollowed, every edge black. The world had been rebuilt into entrances. Wind scraped the pavement. A flyer tumbled against my foot. Rule 7, distance doesn't matter. They're inside you already. I crushed it under my heel, but the words kept pulsing in my skull. Hey! I turned. A man waved frantically from halfway down the block. Gaunt, wild-eyed. You're alive, come on, there's a group. His shadow split free mid-sentence. It sprinted past him, straight into a waiting frame. He screamed once, then folded in on himself, gone. The street emptied again. I walked faster. My shadow stretched long in the gray light, twitching at the edges. I couldn't stop staring at it, waiting for it to lag. At the corner diner, the door creaked open. Her. Same mouth. Same tilt of the head. You left me, she said. The knife slipped in my palm. My chest locked tight. She stepped closer, bare feet whispering on pavement. Behind her, the diner's doorway pulsed black. You don't have to be alone. Her outline flickered, warping. I pressed the blade to my hand until blood stung. Not you. She smiled, sad and sweet. But I could be. Her skin blurred, dissolved. The doorway shuddered as if it had eaten her. I staggered away, shaking, the knife slippery with sweat and blood. The city around me made no sound. Only the frames breathed. At the next block, bodies slumped against walls. Not corpses, husks. Skin gray, eyes blank, mouths open like they were still mid-scream. Their shadows were gone. One twitched faintly as I passed, like something moved inside. I didn't look closer. By dusk I reached the park. Grass brittle, swings clattering weakly. Every tree split wide, hollowed into frames. Inside their trunks, shadows circled like wolves. At the playground's center, a bench stood untouched. A notebook lay on it, pages trembling. I picked it up with shaking hands. Jagged writing scrawled across the paper. There is no outside. The frames aren't doors. They're mirrors. They show the space between choices. Once you see them, you're already split. The only way out is to decide which half you are. My breath stuttered. For a second, the handwriting looked like mine. The page tore as I gripped it too hard. The sky thickened, clouds boiling low. Frames around the park glowed faint, lit from within. Voices poured out, no longer whispers but clear, sharp. My parents. her, even my own, all speaking the same word. Choose. I clamped my hands over my ears. It didn't matter. The word rattled my ribs. The ground split beneath me, dark cracks opening, black shimmer beneath like a second sky. I crouched by the bench, clutching the notebook. Pages ripped loose, spiraling upward like pale moths. The knife slid from my hand. I can't, I whispered. The air pressed close, hot and wet. Hands stretched from the tree frames, long fingers clawing dirt. Faces followed. Every one I'd ever known melted together. We're waiting. I snatched the knife, blood slicking the handle. If frames were mirrors, then every voice, every shadow, every false face was just another version of me. Maybe that was the rule. Not a warning. A demand. Choose. I staggered upright, swaying in the wind. The notebook fell from my grip, pages scattering into the cracks. Frames pulsed all around, hearts beating in rhythm. I raised the knife, arm shaking. The sky boomed with their chorus. Choose. The ground kept splitting, each fissure glowing black. The park leaned inward, like gravity itself had tilted toward the frames. I clutched the knife, whispering, not yet, not theirs. But the voices rose anyway, drilling into bone. Choose. I stumbled across the park, stepping between cracks. Pages from the torn notebook still drifted above, whirling in spirals. One fell into my hand. My own name scrawled across it in jagged strokes. The handwriting was mine. The paper burned cold. I dropped it. Metal shrieked through the chorus. At the playground's edge, swings rattled high though the air was still. Chains whipped sparks as they snapped forward, empty seats cracking the air like whips. Children's laughter rang out, too bright, too sharp. The swings bent impossibly far back, then slammed forward, seats nearly touching the ground. I ran from them, breath sawing. Beyond the park, the city stretched hollow. Buildings stood gutted, every window a black frame. A siren wailed faint, human. I chased it. At the next block, a truck idled with hazard lights blinking. The cab door hung open, engine rattling. Inside, the radio wailed the alert tone. Final directive. All citizens must. Static chewed the voice, deepening into the chorus. Choose. I smashed the radio with the knife's hilt. Sparks flew. The laughter inside the static followed me out. The street trembled. Asphalt split open like cracked ice. Frames bloomed from the fissures, standing upright where road had been. A car swerved ahead, tires screaming. It clipped a frame. The front half vanished clean. The back half spun out, slammed a wall, and exploded. The frame remained untouched. Heat washed down the street. Through firelight I saw people running. Relief jolted me until I saw their shadows. Each one sprinted in the wrong direction, tearing free, diving into frames that opened to catch them. The people collapsed mid-stride, husks falling empty. The shadows kept going. I ducked into an alley, pressed to bricks slick with damp. My hand throbbed where blood dried. A whisper rose beside me, low and urgent. You can still cut them out. I turned. My shadow leaned on the wall, lips moving in sync. Every wound you've made, it was us fighting back. Choose me, the one who resists. Its grin was crooked, too familiar. My throat tightened. And if I don't? The shadow leaned close, voice threading into my skull. Then you're the one they'll hollow first. I staggered back into the street. The city had twisted. Roads no longer stretched straight. They spiraled inward, funneling toward a center point. Frames stacked along the curves, doors without walls, stairs opening into black sky. Voices stitched together overhead, one demand sown from thousands. Choose. I followed the spiral, step after step, blood dripping from my palm to pavement. Every frame I passed showed shifting scenes, my bedroom, my father's chair, her face in candlelight. The longer I looked, the more they warped. My father's chair sat empty. Her face sloughed into mine. I kept walking. At the spiral's core rose a tower. Black glass stretched high, windows gutted, every floor ribbed with frames. The doors stood wide, black light spilling out. I stepped inside. The corridors folded endless, stairs leading nowhere, hallways bending into themselves. Frames lined every wall, breathing. On the plaster, scratched deep in nails. Rule 8, if you don't choose, they will. Blood crusted the grooves. My knees weakened. The rule hummed inside my skull. My silence, my waiting, it had always been my flaw. Now it was law. The voices swelled, filling the tower. I turned a corner and stopped cold. At the corridor's end stood me. Same torn clothes, same blade in hand. But his eyes were calm. He raised his knife, steady. I chose already, he said. The words hit harder than any rule. His shadow shifted out of sync with him. I understood the notebook at last. Mirrors. Splits. If I didn't choose, one of them would. And I'd be nothing. He walked toward me, steps even. I raised my knife, blade clattering against the wall from my shake. His smile was my own, but without fear. "You're the weaker half," he said. The tower shook with the chorus, louder than thought. "Choose." He moved down the corridor with my stride, knife steady, eyes calm. I backed away, blade trembling, pulse roaring. "You can't circle forever," he said. "They'll hollow you before you decide." Frames along the walls flared faint, opening and closing like black lungs. Voices leaked through, my father, her, strangers, all pressing the same word. "Choose." His eyes locked on mine, unwavering. "You made me carry what you couldn't. Step back. Let me finish it." His voice was mine without hesitation. "I'm not giving you my skin," I whispered. He tilted his head, smiling. "You think it's still yours?" I lunged. Our knives clashed, sparks spitting. Pain jolted my wrist. His strength matched mine exactly. The sound rattled down the hall. Frames convulsed. Hands groped out, clawing air. I shoved him off. He didn't budge. "Every cut you've made was me," he said. "You're just the half that flinches." I swung again, desperate. He caught the blade, twisted, slammed me to the wall. His breath scraped my ear. "The rules aren't warnings. They're instructions. You've broken them all." I drove my knee into his gut, wrenched free, staggered down the corridor. Frames rippled. One showed me as a child, barefoot, laughing. Another showed me old and skeletal, eyes gone. Each version whispered, "Choose." He followed slow, sure. "Knife low." "You saw the husks," he said. "They waited too long. That's your ending." My shadow lagged a beat behind me, twitching, unsure which of us to mirror. I burst into a chamber. Ceiling arched high, walls lined with stacked frames, dozens, hundreds. Each glowed with fragments of my life. Birthdays, funerals, her at the window, my father in his chair. Moments blurred, repeating, overlapping. I turned, dizzy, surrounded by my own life refracted. He stepped in behind me, voice echoing. "Every door is a version of you. Only one can stay." The frames pulsed harder, hearts beating around me. I shouted, voice cracking. "If I choose you, I die anyway." The chorus rolled like thunder. "If you don't, you dissolve." I dropped to my knees, knife clattering. My skull buzzed with their voices. He crouched across from me. His eyes softened, almost pity. "Don't drag it out. Let me end this clean." His hand reached for my knife. Something snapped in me. I grabbed his wrist, yanked him forward, slammed my forehead into his. Pain lit white across my skull. We crashed together, knives grinding. His blade carved my arm, blood spraying. I roared, drove my knife into his shoulder. He didn't cry out, just grinned, teeth red, eyes alight. "Better," he hissed. Finally acting. We rolled across the floor, blades clashing, blood smearing stone. The frames swelled louder, scenes flashing too fast to follow. Her voice screamed, "Choose." My father thundered, "Choose." Even my own, "Choose." The chamber shook with it. Pinned beneath him, his knife grazing my throat, I gasped. "If I kill you, what does that make me?" He leaned close, smile fixed. "It makes you the one who's real." The blade kissed skin. Blood welled hot at my neck. I strained, both hands forcing back his wrist. My knife slipped loose. His grin widened. "You've already lost." I let go. His knife drove into my shoulder instead of my throat. Pain screamed, but the shock gave me space. I snatched my fallen blade and rammed it into his chest. His smile froze. The frames went dark. He staggered back, knife clattering. His eyes flickered with fear for the first time. "You think this makes you whole?" I dragged myself upright, blade dripping, chest heaving. "I didn't win," I said. "I finally chose." He collapsed. His body unraveled, pulled into a frame, smoke sucked into black. The chamber trembled. Frames rippled, voices shrieking fury. I stood alone, trembling, knife raised. Blood poured warm down my arm. Then silence. Every frame stilled. Darkness cooled. Only my shadow stretched across the floor, moving in sync again. Relief nearly buckled me. But the ceiling cracked. Black light spilled down, flooding the chamber. A final rule burned itself across the stone in molten letters. Rule 9, choosing doesn't save you. It only proves you were real. The floor split. Frames gaped open into abyss. The voices returned, not screaming now, soft, almost kind. "Welcome back." The chamber floor yawned open, frames gaping like mouths. I staggered back, shoulder burning, knife heavy in my grip. Across the stone, molten letters seared. Rule 9. Choosing doesn't save you. It only proves you were real. My shadow stretched in sync, steady at last. But the abyss below whispered anyway. Real or not, you're ours. The walls peeled away. Frames tore free, floating weightless, turning in the air like door-shaped planets. Each swung wide, spilling glimpses of streets, kitchens, alleys. Every place gutted, every window black. Their pull tugged at me like tides. I steadied my breath, blood dripping into the cracks. Not yours, I rasped. The voices laughed, rolling thunder. Then prove it again. The tower convulsed. I staggered down a collapsing corridor. Frames shattered on the floor like glass, shards spilling reflections. Each shard showed another me. One sitting silent at a table. One already walking through a frame. One slit his throat as I stared. Blood sprayed across the inside of the glass, then rippled away. I tore my gaze free, moving faster. The corridor funneled into a stairwell that spiraled down. Steps sagged underfoot, slick and spongy. Shadows pooled on the edges, whispering. Halfway down, she waited. Perched on the stairs, hands folded, eyes wet. You cut him down, she whispered. But you can't cut what's left. My chest clenched. You're not her. She tilted her head, faint smile trembling. You carved choices into pieces. Each piece grew teeth. You think one kill stops the rest. I tightened my grip on the railing. Move. Her smile faded. She leaned back into the stairs' shadow and dissolved. Her voice lingered. We're waiting at the bottom. The stairs ended in a hall lined with endless frames. Everyone showed me walking the same hall, endless copies at different stages. Some dragged blades. Some bled heavier. Some stared back at me, eyes hollow. I touched one. The surface was cold, glassy. The other me looked up, grinned, and cut his own throat. Blood painted the frame black. I staggered back, bile in my throat. The glass rippled, swallowing him. At the hall's end, more words burned into stone. Rule 10. Dissent is not escape. It is surrender. I whispered through gritted teeth. Then why pull me down? The voices thundered, because you already stepped through. The floor crumbled. I fell. The knife spun away. Darkness tore at me, howling. Memories ripped loose midair. Her laugh, my father's hand, the silence of my first empty apartment. Each memory bent sideways, dragged screaming into invisible frames. I screamed too, until my throat tore raw. Stone slammed me breathless. Pain detonated through bone. Blood filled my mouth. I crawled, dragging toward the glint of my knife. Fingers closed around the handle. The chamber was alive. Walls of flesh pulsed, veined with dim light. The air reeked of iron and rot. Whispers filled me. Welcome to the marrow. The walls bulged. Faces pressed out, mouths opening, eyes rolling. Some were mine. Some weren't. All chanted in overlapping voices. Rule 1. Do not step through broken doorframes. Rule 2. Do not answer voices. Rule 3. Do not trust what looks familiar. Every rule I had broken, recited like ritual, pounding in rhythm with my pulse. I clamped my hands over my ears. Stop. The chant swelled louder. The floor rippled beneath me. Hands tore through, hundreds of them, slick and grasping. Fingers wrapped my boots, dug into my legs, pulling. I slashed down, blade tearing flesh. For every hand cut, 2 more erupted. The marrow chamber laughed. Dissent is surrender. And you already bowed. I hacked until blood sprayed across my arms, my face, my clothes. The grip loosened. I collapsed, chest heaving, blade dripping. The walls throbbed faster, veins glowing bright. A face swelled larger than the rest, pressing outward, features grotesquely stretched. My own. Its mouth opened. You can't carve forever, it said. The knife rusts. The arm fails. Then you'll lie still and dissolve like the others. I crawled to the far wall, back pressed against flesh warm as fever. My body shook, shoulder burning, blood soaking my shirt. The knife felt heavier than bone. My shadow pooled beside me, still in sync. I whispered ragged, "Tell me I'm real." It whispered back, "You're holding the knife." For a moment, relief flickered. The walls laughed, shaking. Knives rust. Shadows starve. Rules stay. The face leaned close, lips splitting wider. One choice left. The marrow walls pulsed, laughing. One choice left. I pressed the knife against my chest, blade quivering with each breath. "If it proves I'm real," I whispered, "then let that be enough." The face in the wall leaned close, skin straining. My own lips moved with its. "You're real only when you step through." The chamber shook. Frames split open in the flesh, glowing like wounds. Inside each, scenes flickered, Me sitting in silence, me rotting as a husk, me kneeling without a blade. Every version mouthed the same word, choose. The knife weighed heavier than bone. My shadow mirrored me, steady, daring me to falter. I staggered to my feet, body screaming, vision swimming. The floor rippled, hands clutching. I kicked free, limped toward the nearest frame. It showed her. Not warped, just her. Sitting cross-legged on the carpet, hair tangled, smiling soft. Her lips moved, and though I couldn't hear, I knew the word stay. I pressed my forehead to the glass. For a heartbeat, the black shimmer softened warm. Behind me, the marrow hissed, she's bait. They all are. I clenched the knife tighter, blood running down my arm. Then why does it burn? The walls thundered back, because you remember. Faces swelled, chanting the broken rules in a ritual drone. Rule 1, do not step through broken door frames. Rule 2, do not answer voices. Rule 3, do not trust what looks familiar. Each syllable slammed like a hammer. My knees buckled. I wanted silence. I wanted it enough to kill. I spun and slashed the wall. Flesh split, black ichor spilling. Faces shrieked, agony and laughter tangled. Hands burst from the wound, dragging me down. I hacked wild, blade carving through fingers, veins meet. The wall convulsed, but the voices swelled louder. Rule 9, choosing doesn't save you. It only proves you were real. I stumbled free, drenched in blood not mine. The chamber tilted. Frames tore loose from walls, orbiting like planets. Each reflected me, bleeding, staggering, breaking. In every reflection, I raised the knife. I didn't know if I was about to stab myself or open the frame. The marrow rumbled. End it, and we keep your shadow. Step through, and we keep your skin. I laughed, raw and broken. Either way, you win. The voices answered. Either way, you are ours. I lifted the knife to my throat. My shadow raised its blade in sync. For a moment, I thought of letting go, collapsing into nothing. But then the shadow whispered, barely audible. If you cut here, we die silent. If you step, we scream forever. The choice stabbed deeper than steel. The chamber brightened. Every frame swung wide, pouring light blacker than dark. The air split with sound, thousands of voices, all mine, howling the same word. Choose. I pressed the knife harder, edge biting skin. Blood welled, hot. But my feet dragged forward, toward the nearest frame. Her face waited inside, smiling. The marrow face bellowed, descent is surrender. I whispered back, then I surrender. I dropped the knife. It struck stone with a hollow toll. My shadow screamed, tearing loose, arms stretching into threads. It unraveled slow, like smoke peeling from fire, screaming all the while. The sound followed me, raw, human, until nothing remained but silence. I staggered forward. The frame's black shimmer spread over my skin like water. Inside, her hand reached out. I lifted mine. For a moment, we touched, warm, human. The marrow collapsed behind me, walls ripping open, faces shrieking in rage. Hands clawed the air, too far to reach. Then silence. No chance. No rules. Just me standing in the hallway I knew, the one outside my old apartment. Her laughter echoed faintly from inside. The door stood whole, no frame, no shimmer. I reached for the knob, breath ragged. My fingers brushed metal. Behind me, a voice colder than stone intoned. Rule 11. What waits on the other side is never what you left behind. I froze, hand on the knob, heart pounding. Her laughter cut off clean. The door creaked, pulling open by itself. Darkness waited inside. I stepped forward. Do not step through. If you see someone emerge, do not trust them, even if they wear your mother's smile or speak in your brother's voice. They will know your memories, but their eyes will betray them. And when they ask you to follow, you will. That is how it spreads.